Hi, everybody. It's Tim, Ranting Blue Penguin, and I'm here with a couple of Union Omaha's best playmakers. A couple of stalwarts helped lead us to a championship last year. A couple of player shields. We got Charlie Ostrem, Marco Milanese. Anyone familiar with the team will be familiar with you guys' names. Welcome, guys.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
So what we wanted to get you guys in here to talk about is it's Youth Sports Night for Union Omaha coming up this week, and you guys have had some good experiences and some different experiences coming in with youth sports. Because Charlie, Pacific Northwest, so you've got the very American perspective.
Yep.
Marco, you coming in from Italy, and some of the academy clubs and some of your experiences there. Just wanted to get a little bit of a different perspective on what youth sports actually means, how to get involved with youth sports, and what some of your journeys have been. So if you don't mind, Marco, we can go ahead and start with you. Tell us a little bit about what your youth academy journey was, especially considering you got called up to the Italy under-15 team at one point. So what was your academy journey over in Italy like?
Yes, it was. I have to say, I traveled a lot. It wasn't an easy one. I started as everyone in my hometown club growing up until I was probably 14 years old. Which I think it was a good academy. At the same time, we had a lot of problems. I think like the small clubs have some problems with infrastructures in Italy. So for sure, something that needs to be looked at. And then after that, I went to Parma, which was a Serie A team in the profession, kind of like an MLS Next Pro for comparing for US. And it was a very good club, very good academy. We had a very talented team. Most of them, they're like still playing. Then I moved to Torino for like 6 months because I didn't really fit in that system. So I had the chance and the luck that also Napoli wanted me, so they picked me up in the January transfer market. Probably was the best decision of my life because after that, I went to the under-19, and as you said, I had the chance to, feature in the bench for the Serie A team, which was a very, very great experience.
So, and we heard a lot of different team names in there. Parma, Torino. We've got, I think, Napoli. You had a stop at Napoli at one point.
Yeah.
All teams that anyone familiar with Serie A will recognize those teams as historic teams. So you had that right there, and your academy system was tied with really the best of the best in Italy. And then, meanwhile, Charlie, you're in the Pacific Northwest in Seattle. So what does your academy journey look like?
Yeah, so I grew up in Seattle, and the main two big academies in, I guess, like Washington is the Seattle Sounders and Crossfire Academy, and I didn't actually make the Sounders team the first time I tried out, which was tough, as a kid, and that's kind of your dream. But I actually had an unbelievable experience playing for Crossfire, and I found a lot of like really good community there and a lot of friends that, I still am very close with. And we had, great seasons, and we actually ended up being better than Sounders while I was there. So, I had a very different experience, but it was unbelievable. And, I met so many great people, and that's actually how I ended up going to University of Washington, right, because of the connections I made at Crossfire.
Right, and that was more of a normal path for what's in the States. And then Marco, after your time over there, you came over and actually you played at Akron, played at UNC Greensboro. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So you were a little later in the college bit, but really, what got you guys started in deciding this is the path we want to go, and that soccer was going to be good for you? Maybe even if you didn't make it professionally, that participating in youth soccer was going to be good for you.
For sure. I have to say a big factor for me in my soccer career was my father, because he used to be a professional player in Italy. So I don't know, kind of like something that I wanted to be like him. It started like this, and then when you start playing and you see you actually, you have talent, you have the potential to become a professional, then you just keep like, keeping loving the sport. And for me, always, I like challenges. I like to confront myself with other players. So I always enjoy these this event, especially when I was playing youth academy, because I think it's probably the best time. There is not a lot of money involved. You just play for passion, just play for love, and it's probably like the best times. Also, like I remember like playing tournaments was something like very fun to compete with other, maybe sometimes clubs from other nations in Europe. You see the differences. And then yes, like keep growing, keep playing, and keep growing. Then you decide basically, okay, maybe I have a chance. I want to become a professional, and I found this path here in the United States, which I'm really enjoying. I'm really enjoying it.
How about you, Charlie? What got the hooks into you?
Yeah, I've always been super competitive, and whether it was basketball, baseball, soccer, I just love sports. And I ended up being the best at soccer, and I wasn't very tall. So I picked it, and I ran with it. My dad, he played soccer growing up, and he also played volleyball. He played volleyball at UCLA. So he was super competitive, and he knew what it took to get to the collegiate level. And that was always my dream, to just play in college. I never really expected to go pro. Because I was big into academics and I loved University of Washington. I was always a Huskies fan. That was kind of my dream. And then, it ended up working out. And, I think one of the biggest things that's kept me going this whole time is friends I've made in the sport. I mean, like, Marco, for example, and, all the players that I've played with in the past. It's been like one of the, best things I've taken from the sport. The friendships and, relationships I think I've built through it.
And yeah, those kinds of things and those lessons that you take with you for the rest of your life. We hear that all the time about people who still get together with their high school football, high school soccer, high school mates that did all of these things, and they have all of those stories to tell and have that bond for life. In addition to preparing you for being able to function in a team environment. So, but there are definitely some differences that we notice between the European and the American system. What would you guys say are kind of the biggest differences? And I know, Charlie, you had a little bit of time in New Zealand. So if you have any insights to what it's like over in New Zealand, but there's a different feel. So how would you guys describe that?
Yeah, I'd say that in the U.S., I don't think, especially in the soccer world of it, the soccer side of sports in the U.S., it's just not as intense in any way. I think for Marco, and he can, delve deeper into this, but I was just living at home, driving to training with my dad, 45 minutes away, an hour away, and just going to training and training 3 times a week, and it was more of a obviously I was very committed to it, but it's not the biggest kind of thing in my life at that point. And I'm sure it was very different for Marco. But when I was in New Zealand, it's actually pretty serious as well. There's a lot of the team I was playing with is an academy, and kids were living at the like apartment buildings and at the fields, and it's just not as common here in the U.S. And I think it's becoming more common. But when I was growing up and going through it, it's crazy to say 8 to 10 years ago that wasn't really a thing. Yeah.
Yes, for sure. As you said, I think you really got the point. Like, I would say, like in Europe, when you decide to play for these academies, they really make you understand it's not a, I mean, it's a serious thing. It's not a game anymore since you're like very young. Like since I was 15, as I said, I had to move as well, like 7 hours from my house, so living by myself in these kind of like dorms with my teammates. And everyone is competing there for the spot and your dream to get like to Serie A, which is like you have very very low chances. That's the reality of it. So like I think there is more like also the locker room, very competitive locker room. Everyone wants to fight for their spot. So you get thrown when you're very young into a really serious environment, I would say. And it's not easy. It's not easy because there is someone who wants to take. I mean, I would say it's not easy, but at the same time, it makes you grow a lot because you understand that, like, if you don't perform, even if you are very young, there is someone who's gonna take your spot. I would say that's the most important difference. Also, like the way you approach games, which I don't really agree with it because it's like you always the coaches and everything. I think the goal of this academy is try to improve players. And most of the times in Italy, they focus too much on like winning games, which to win games, sometimes you don't really have to, show the best game. You can really as we say, like, park the bus and counter attack. Sometimes I have to play games like this when you play, like, the top players in Europe and stuff. So it's like, I don't know, like, I feel there needs to be a balance, between the two. And for sure, like, I would say that's the main difference, main difference. But I have to say that club-wise, in terms of, like, not professional, because mine was really like a professional academy, the American clubs are a little bit more, organized in terms of, like, getting tournaments. My hometown team was, I have to say, it was really organized in terms of infrastructure. We used to practice sometimes in half field because there was another academy, like, practicing the other half. So it's like very different. That doesn't help you improve too much. But the difference, I would say, more in the competitiveness of the game. Yeah.
Yeah. The European model you're describing sounds a lot more like almost an apprenticeship
Yeah.
for becoming a soccer player, and if you don't cut it, they cut you loose,
Yeah.
and that's the end of that, unless you can go somewhere else and find somewhere else to develop.
For sure. I have to say, like, right now, like, in US, the MLS Next Pro are like developing a lot, like, so it's becoming very similar. You see a lot of young players. Like, we have a young guy in our team, Mark Bronick, which yet to leave, far from his house because he was in this academy, Barcelona Academy. So they're starting to be like this similar path in US, and that's gonna help, player become like grown man, like, very early. You can see, like, right now, like Yamal, for example. Now he's like 17 years old, but he plays like a grown man.
Yeah.
That's because it's been like under certain pressure they help you grow, which I'm sure, like, Charlie didn't have this type of pressure when he was growing up.
Yeah.
So I think it's becoming like a little bit like more like this in US as well.
And Charlie, do you think that disadvantages us in the U.S., or do you think we've got a better balance? How would you compare it?
No, it's definitely a disadvantage. I mean, I think, like, especially for myself, like, I didn't really learn a lot of tactics until I kind of got to college. 'Cause it just wasn't, like, there's a lot of talented players that are playing together, but it's just not as serious. So, like, you're not in it all day. I go to training for an hour and a half a day, and then I go home, and then my rest of the day is doing other stuff. Marco's living it. They're probably having meetings. They're having tactical sessions. I didn't do that until I went to college. So I think it definitely disadvantages, American players. But like you said, it's becoming very, very similar to the European model now. Like, they're definitely trying to copy it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
And I know one of the hot button topics about that is the accessibility in the United States. The pay to play model is what we've known for the better part of the last 3 decades, really. And I'm not 100% sure. Does it work similarly in Europe, where you're paying to play, or you're paying for the privilege to be at an academy?
I didn't know that. So do you pay for playing MLS Next Pro or no?
No. I'm talking about at the kids
At the club level.
the club junior level. Yeah,
Makes sense.
So
Yeah, so I would say, like, so I used to pay a little bit. It was like a fee, which was, honestly, I think, compared to US, it would be like minimal. Like, it was 150 euros, which is probably $200 a year to pay, like, with these clubs. And they would give you, like, all the stuff. You pay this fee, basically they give you the travel gears and, like, the practice gears, no? But then after that, like, maybe for some tournaments they would ask some money, some fees, but to say it was very minimal, and more like they would take care of it, because it's something that, like, is always been kind of like this in Italy, and I'm sure also in Europe. So yes, for sure, like, I have to say, as you said, like, accessibility, like, is more accessible in Italy for all type of, like, from everyone. So yeah.
And did you experience that in New Zealand, that there was any kind of a difference in the accessibility model?
I think it's pretty similar to England. I think there's a lot of English influence there. But I wouldn't say, I'd say US is far more pay to play than, anywhere else. Like, I think my parents are probably paying, $2,000 a year, or $2,000 a season if it was, like 2 different seasons in 1 year, when I was playing as a kid. So, like, it was expensive to kind of play at those clubs because, there's travel, staying in hotels, all that stuff. So, yeah, I think it's definitely a lot different.
So with that, you guys have come through this journey now, and you've seen the youth soccer level. And I guess I'll ask Marco, what would you change aside from what Joe said? Is there anything else you would change about the Italian model? And then Charlie, I'll throw it over to you. Is there anything that you would really change about the American model?
For sure, as I mentioned a little bit before, yeah, I think like because of this competitiveness you get since you're young, I think right now, and that's probably why our national team is lacking, this type of talent. Like we think too much maybe about tactics, maybe too early, So we lack in developing like the skills that you need to have to play a certain level. Um, because I remember, like I used to, even though I used to be like in this academy, as you said, we had like a lot of meetings about tactics and everything. I had to have like this coach. They used to work with me 1v1, so like I still develop my technical skills because without that, at certain points you cannot get if you don't have those. So I think like maybe until you're like, as you said, like I would say like 17, I think is a good age to start talking about tactics. But before, just probably focus on like, maybe the movements instead of like really like the movements and why you're doing this to try to score or like to try to get in a good position. The technical skill in this situation. So I think they need to focus more on this stuff than in thinking about all the systems and all this stuff. That you can certainly learn, like Charlie did, like an older age.
And I'd say that the one thing I think U.S. should do is it's good to copy the European model to an extent, but Europe is so much different than the U.S. The U.S. is massive, and expecting kids at the age of 12, 13, 14 to fly across the country to play games is, I think, a little ridiculous and kind of a waste of money. And that money could be better invested, like building areas where kids can develop. So, building meeting rooms and places and nice training fields where kids can because you're playing at bad training fields, you're going to get hurt. You're going to develop problems later in life. I think it's better to invest in the development at that age instead of, flying from Seattle to, Miami for a game when kids were 13. So I think it's good to have that competitive mindset, but to maybe focus more on the developing at that age, and especially in the U.S., the tactical side of it, I think.
Yeah, it sounds like regionalization. That's what Europe really has in benefit over the America is you're very regionalized. Even a few hour train ride to get to Germany or to get to France or somewhere like that, where you're looking at 4 or 5 hours connecting flights and all of that. See it across country in America. I can absolutely see that. I know you guys are involved in the coaching scene here, and we'll talk a little bit about what you guys do and how you guys do that in a minute. But what do you guys think of the Omaha youth soccer scene? Is it growing well? Is it doing well? What do you guys think?
I really like the high school finals they do at the Creator Stadium. I think it's awesome because these kids they get to play in front of like a lot of like I never played until probably I was 18, 19 in front like these crowds that I saw at the finals this year, like the last years. I think that's awesome. Um, as you said, like we coach a little bit, so like these young guys, so we kind of know, the best teams in the area, and like all this stuff. And I have to say, this is like a very good movement. There is a lot of teams. There is two when we go to practice, for example, over the weekend. Maybe we have a midweek game. We see a lot of tournaments going on, which is awesome. And it's probably like when you start loving the sport, because like the competitiveness, like maybe just like I remember when I was a kid in a tournament, like I was so happy, so excited that I could eat before the game. So that's how you get like in love with the sport. And honestly, like I have to say, like it's pretty awesome in Omaha. Like I have to say, it's a soccer city. They have a lot of like also with the two university, Creighton and UNO, they do a great job. So the clubs, there is a lot of it, which is awesome because you have multiple, like decision, multiple options. No, I think it's good. I think it's very good.
Yeah, I agree with him. When I first got here and I found out that Marco and Luca were doing coaching, I thought it was really interesting because it was, cool to see like them giving back to the community. And I think a big part of why Omaha does have a soccer scene is because of Union Omaha, and you have to give them credit for what they've done because you see it at games and in the community. Like there's a big following for the club, and it's been one of the most successful clubs in USL and one of the most successful professional teams in Omaha.
Yeah.
And I think that's really special, and we're happy to just like help try to build up the community and like give back as much as we can.
For sure.
And you mentioned there, Luca. When he's not scoring goals against us and everything else, he actually did do start. I think it was the Be a Pro that you guys are involved with. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that, what you guys do, and how that's come about.
So it happened because Luca used to do it before in his team was Tucson, I think. So he started but when he came here, he told me if I wanted to help out because he said he wanted to be like doing a little bit more seriously, like create a Instagram page. Because he said he's, as you said, something like because soccer is growing exponentially here in US, there is like some potential there. And it's what we do best is to play soccer. So maybe today to start giving back to the community with some advices to these young kids that come to play with us and get trained with us. And it started like this, kind of like slowly a little bit at the beginning because people didn't know us. We were like both of us like new in the team. And then step by step, we started, posting videos on his Instagram page daily. I remember it was a very hard job because we had to record these, simple exercise or like technical exercise drills. But I have to say, he did a great job. Keep adding to this Instagram page that helps at the same time the business going. We get like more attention from the people in the community. Now he's doing as well, in Lancaster, so he's doing good as well over there. And we're trying, to expand a little bit more, until probably we can get kind of like a club going. Maybe, hopefully, we'll see. And we're very happy how it's going. Unfortunately, Luke is not with us, so we have to be me, Charlie, and Max do it here in Omaha. But they're awesome. They join our team. They're great coaches as well.
What's
it been like for you starting the coaching journey there, Charlie?
Yeah, it's been cool. I mean, it's definitely something that I wish I'd had when I was, 10, 11, 12, 13, because, team training, you just don't really get enough of the individual work and touches. I started doing individual trainer with the trainer in Seattle when I was like 17, 18, but I felt it was too late. And, the earlier, the better, in my opinion, especially, with people who've been through experiences and, know what they're talking about. So it's been fun for me because, it's just, at the end of the day, it's just soccer. Like it's not a real job. Mm-hmm. We're just out there hanging out with kids and, trying to help them have fun and learn. So I can't complain. It's been fun.
That is awesome. It's not a real job when you enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's the most important thing. And I have to say, as you say, I wished we had this kind of opportunity when we were young because you're getting coached by a professional player. So it's someone that did which I respect, and I think some of the best coaches in the world that they never play soccer. For example, Mourinho, But I think getting the type of training we do is not just, it's not really tactical. It's more about the technique, want to improve the technique of the players with things that we do daily, so we get certain, we understand them, what they feel, especially at a young age. And we're trying to, get them in the more comfortable position. And I always say when I coach, I always say we are here to make mistakes. Don't be afraid to make mistakes because it's how you grow, it's how you learn. Where sometimes maybe in the club, the coach, if you see making a mistakes, then they put another kid on your spot, or they put you something that I don't really like about the club here. That they start selecting first, second team, third team. I don't really like that because I don't think it's yes, for sure, as you say, it makes it more competitive, but at the same time, you're here to have fun. That's the most important thing. You need to enjoy to be with your friend. And if I wouldn't be a young kid and I see my best friend go in the first team and I would be in the second team, it would hurt me. So That's probably one thing that I don't like about that. But yeah, honestly, like having fun with the kids and like making them the game. That's what we're here for, you know.
And how are people able to get involved with this? And if they're interested with coaching you with you guys, how do you look you guys up?
For
Yeah, like how do we find more kids that want to
more kids will train with us. We started with flyers, you know, like in this tournament that we were talking about yesterday when we coach. There's a lot of cars. We just put flyers there and with our number. Very like we're still like early in our stage of like this be a pro process. So like we're still like doing everything by phone. We're trying to to build a website where it's gonna be easy to book the sessions and everything, and more professional as well. But it's expensive, it's not easy. So we're trying to do everything good step by step, not rushing it because we like our main job is still to play soccer professionally, so that's our main focus right now. But it's very easy, like if you see someone is interested in flyers with my number, shoot me a text and then I'll give all the links to get bookings, and from there we work.
Yeah, I think one thing too we've been trying to do this year is do more like small group sessions or just group sessions, and we're actually trying to connect with local Omaha clubs and just try to find a way to see if like, hey, on a certain day of the week, can we take like the defenders and work with them for a period of time, and just like because I think it's stuff that they can work on now, like technique, like you said, and working with groups positionally, and that could benefit kids a lot.
So with that, what can the community do to help promote youth soccer and help what you guys are doing in the community? How can we get more involved? How can we help out?
That's a great question.
Yeah, I think honestly, one thing is attending Union Omaha games, like bring kids to games, and that's how I fell in love with soccer. I think I saw like Manchester United versus Barcelona in like 2008 and in Seattle, and I fell in love. And I think that's one of the things to build up the soccer community here is like let them enjoy it and let them, like you said, have fun, and supporting kids and kind of building facilities and the means for kids to actually be able to play soccer. So like having more fields, having more access to fields, I think stuff like that.
100% agree. I think like the live experience that you get when you go watch a soccer game is way different than watching TV. You feel the emotions, like you say. Like most of the times I hear here in US that like it's boring compared to to basketball or like football because you score less. But if you get to the game, you start to understanding, like how the game works. You can see it's like not really boring because there's counter attacks, corners. You feel the emotion rising. So, it's not just about scoring goals. And then I feel like the fact that it's like also like less scoring is like so much rewarding that like when you score and like you feel like emotion that you get to remember for life. As he said, like I remember for me, if it was not even Barcelona, Man United, I wish I would go to see like this type of game. It was like my hometown club playing third division at the time, and like, but you see, like these people that from now, they go to the game and like you see maybe older guys that when you're young you look up to older guys and you see like they follow this team like is I don't know Barcelona, like this kind of club, even though if they play third division, like for me. Our fans are amazing. Like we see them sometimes at games that are like miles away and they come to watch us. So, like it shows their love and like hopefully the kids growing up now like they're gonna become fans as well and like the community is gonna grow. And of course it takes time because if you think about like Union Omaha has been in the around like for 5 years. It's not a lot. So, like we have clubs like my hometown club, which is like not a great club in Italy, but it's like a small division club. It's been around for like probably 50 years. So it's like, the difference,
Yeah.
So also it's going to take time, but at the same time, like attending games, I think is so important. So important.
Yeah.
Okay. So since you mentioned it, I'm going to go on a tangent here real quick. Do you remember the first goal you ever scored for when you were young for your team?
The first goal, I don't remember probably the first one, but I remember an important one that I scored. Like it was amazing for me. I don't know if Charlie knows. I used to play striker before. I think everyone will play striker at the beginning, So like, and it was this tournament called. how can I explain this? But basically, like after Christmas is like a tournament that we play like in my hometown, and there's like huge tournament. I don't know for what reason. Like all from the region, all the teams come to this tournament. There's like so many parents watching, like which is probably normal here in US, but like in Italy, usually there is not a lot of people watching when you're playing. So I remember ball coming in, like we used to play like 88 still, so it wasn't like 11v11. Ball coming in, I take a touch, I get fouled, free kick. Of course, like I'm taking it. There's no.
Yep.
It was probably last moments of the game of this. I think it was a semi-final. Shoot, score, amazing feeling, amazing feeling, amazing.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I necessarily remember my first goal, but I think I have a picture on my phone of like when I played for this team called Emerald City, this really small club in Seattle growing up. And there's a picture. I think the ball is probably like a third of my size. I think I was probably like 3 feet tall.
Yeah.
But I definitely, was scoring back then. And I remember it just like, it's so funny. Like it must have looked hilarious to like parents and stuff, seeing these like little guys running around, like hammering the ball at each other. But yeah, but I can send you that photo. It's pretty funny.
That's going to have to go up somewhere. Absolutely. So getting close to the half-hour mark here. So I'll go ahead and we'll start wrapping up, and I'll ask you. I think the biggest question is why youth sports in general. We know that they give benefit, but why youth soccer? And if you had to leave the audience on anything, why would you get your kid involved in youth soccer?
I would say for me is team sports and the team aspect of it. And soccer especially, I think you build crazy bonds, whether you're losing together and you're in pain because you're, running sprints, or you're winning and you're scoring goals with friends. I think the relationships you get through youth soccer, and even like for the parents, I think some of my parents' best friends are my teammates' parents. And I think just the relationships you build in team sports, and especially soccer, and the passion that is behind the sport, I think that's the biggest selling point for me. And I don't think you have to sell someone on that.
100%. For sure, 100%. Why is it so important for me? First of all, I think is because it's the future. Like when you go into I really like to watch also academy highlights because I think it's always amazing to see these young kids competing, and like I'm always fascinated from that. I don't know why I have this passion. So I think like it's the future of the American soccer. Like that's why I think it's so important to get attention to the academies, clubs, and all of this, making available for everyone, as you said, accessible to everyone. I think it's gonna be so much important, because if you think about it, like how many kids you have in the United States, and like what can you do with all this talent that you have? You just need to discover it and like develop. That's why I think it's so important. And as you said, like relationship. When I was young, my best friends in Italy, I used to play with them because you are always with them. You always like practicing with them. Sharing like wins, which is the amazing feeling in the world, but at the same time sharing losses, which makes you grow. And also like you get into this locker room where there's like maybe 20 kids, and like you start developing also your social skill, which is so important, because then you have like different people, like you don't trust me, like soccer players are so different. They're like not the same at all, especially also like at our level. So like imagine when you're dealing with kids. So very important, also like something that a coach needs to understand, because not every kid is the same. So for me was I have to say, like, I mean, it is my life. Soccer is my life, and I started when I was young, and I became the person that I am right now thanks to that, thanks to those experiences when I was young.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think the last thing I'll say is I think soccer is one of the only sports that has like the lowest barriers of entry. Like you just need a ball and maybe some friends. You don't even need any friends. You can go with your dad or your mom and kick the ball around. And I think that's like the beauty of it. And that's why it's the biggest sport in the world. It's because it's so easy to play, whether, you don't really have the means to, you can play soccer. So, yeah.
100%. I would say inclusive as well.
Like
in terms of like, for example, I hate to say that, but like in basketball, if you're not certain height, you cannot play.
Yeah.
Like that's for me. That's why I don't I think like soccer is the best sport in the world. Like as you said, like everyone can play, just a ball. You can see some videos like in Africa, they don't even have the ball, like, and they still play. Like like also on, I want to say, but like when I was young, like in the park, 2 trees, you know, a ball, like that's all you need. That's all you need. So it was, I think that's why it's the best sport. That's why it's the most followed. You know, like everyone watches it, and and it starts all from the youth academies. Everything starts from there. Everything starts from there.
All right. Well, absolutely agree with everything you guys said there. Marco, Charlie, thank you guys for coming on, talking to us a little bit about these and the importance of youth sports there. And get out, kick a ball, play, and absolutely support local. Thanks, guys.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, team. Great. Good to see you. Bye bye.